we're back with the news hour. Let's kick-start it off with Minister Nankabirwa warns on vandalism. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development has rallied all concerned agencies in the energy sector with different government administrative and security structures to launch the biggest offensive ever on power theft and vandalism of transmission lines and distribution infrastructure. More of the details.
The attack, which Minister Ruth Nankabirwa has called Olulumba Serurumba, meaning the mother of all attacks, is aimed to crush once and for all vandalism and power theft that costs the government hundreds of millions of dollars a year. The government has in the past 3 years intensified investment in the electricity generation, transition and distribution operation of the country. But despite these investments, the Ministry of Energy decries the rampant cases of vandalism of power supply infrastructure. Kabira has said that the recent outage of power experienced by the country was due to vandalism, where segments of the network have been destroyed out of malice, which interferes with the progress of the country.
The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development continues to grapple with the rampant cases of vandalism of power transmission lines and distribution infrastructure. The vandals are deliberately sabotaging the electricity access agenda that government embarked on to ensure electricity for all by 2030. And these vandals compromise the reliability, continuity, and stability of power supply that sometimes compromises national security. Recently, the nation has experienced power outages because of vandalism of the power infrastructure. And these have been cases where segments of the network are destroyed out of malice, including siphoning of transformer oils, causing transformers to burn, removing copper wires from the transformers, and sometimes carrying the entire transformer in one's pocket. So the public needs to be aware of this, and that we are experiencing an interference in our progress. The interference with electricity supply network has caused power blackouts, and it has threatened the security of our homes. It has increased the cost of doing business in Uganda. And it also has an effect on the tariff, on the cost of electricity. And this disrupts vital health and education services. You can imagine if you are in a theater, you have a patient being operated on, and power goes off. Some people end up dying. If you are in a chemistry lab, physics lab, biology lab, you are transacting a practical, and power goes off. So the effects of vandalism are diverse. The vandals may think that once they get money, it will be okay.
Nankabirwa adds that the interference with the electricity supply network and the security of people's homes increase the cost of doing business in Uganda, and also it has an effect on the cost of power. The minister also observes that vandalism of power supply infrastructure has a relationship with the unregulated scrap business in the country, saying that there is need to work with Ugandan Manufacturers Association to ensure regulation of the scrap subsector. He also attached such acts to terrorism, and they will treat those who vandalize electricity like terrorists.
Without shame, without fear, buno butujju bwennyini obw'amasanyalaze. And I think we have to deal with them like we deal with terrorists. Because the tower can fall in a building.
The minister cited the cases of vandalism, which include the collapse of 5 towers in Balala in Mukono district on the 132 kV line that happened on the 20th September 2018, causing a power blackout that lasted for 3 hours. She adds that 29 towers were badly vandalized in Tororo district on the 132 kV Tororo-Lira transmission line under construction, into 13 towers collapsing on the ground, which leads to delays on the delivery of government projects and increasing project costs.
Recently, a metallic tower fell on a wooden line. So you end up, in double jeopardy. The 400 kV Karuma Kawanda transmission line, the one I talked about in the morning, which has 639 towers, that brand new line is not saved. Karuma Lira transmission line, which is under construction, have experienced heavy vandalism. On the Karuma Kawanda line alone, 9.5 kilometers of aluminium conductors, or you call them wires, were cut and stolen, together with other tower parts and accessories estimated to be 100 metric tons, equivalent of about 7 towers. The people of northern Uganda, West Nile, are waiting for this power, but the road is being vandalized.
The minister called upon RDCs, who are the head of security committees in their respective districts and responsible for monitoring the government projects, to come up and fight this vice in order to realize the NRM manifesto on electricity distribution in all parishes.
All right, and speaking of vandalism and electricity theft, as the minister clearly said, they're going to treat the people engaging in such activities like they're engaging with terrorists. So you should stay cautioned and warned that you're putting people's lives on risk. Not only the people's lives, however, you're also putting your own lives at risk, and also this actually increases the cost of production and the various sectors in the economy. Okay, and Nkabira adds that the interference with the electricity supply network threatens the security of people at home. It has increased the cost of doing business in Uganda and also has an effect on the cost of power. Yes. Okay, the minister further employed all the RDCs, who are the head of security committees in their respective districts and responsible for monitoring government projects, to come up and fight this vice in order to realize the NRM manifesto on electricity distribution in all the parishes. All right, let's move on to the next story, as GoTV Uganda gives back to community in Jinja, as the multi-choice gave out GoTV decoders to over 10 orphanages and schools in Jinja so that it helps in information dissemination across the district. Hassan Waswa and Babu Isa brought the story.
We're talking about the same animal.
Honorable Kabahinda Flavia, the chairperson of the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection, while speaking to journalists at Parliament, said it's not good for journalists. The Minister of State for Kampala, Honorable Chofato Gambia Kabuye, while talking to the press, expressed his feeling when he said that the vulnerable people, like those of the orphans and schools, don't know what is taking place in the country, so this will help them know and learn some good things while using these GoTV decoders.
It has got programs which are more developmental programs, and the government wants to partner with it to pass over these messages to these people. Now, when they get such information, they can also copy. For instance, you've been hearing about the Myoga initiative, presidential initiative. So many people don't know it, but we've been using a lot of media. In most cases, when you look at such people, they are outside the news they are outside the news centers. They don't know what is happening in the country. But at least with this initiative, it enables them, first of all, to receive the information, pick something, because you can't watch TV the whole day and you don't pick. Even if you watch these soaps, at least someone picks it.
He further said that giving these communities such avenues of watching TV, it helps the government on the people it targets help, because these people are in an economic hardship.
Is an avenue and a conduit through which government passes information to its people. So that's why we are here. We are here to strengthen and to echo the position that indeed these are initiatives supported by government, and is mainly focusing on information flow or information extended to our people. That's why I came in also to witness. Now, the giving out of these decoders, we're assisting economically hard-hit people.
The Communications Office of GoTV, Mrs. Joan Samandakiza, said that in recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, it was a concern that helping these orphanages by giving them decoders and full subscription for a full year will revamp their ways of living. And according to her, what these schools and orphanages do to the children of the nation, there was a need to give back.
TV decoders with a year's subscription of GoTV to 10 orphanages here in Busoga Kingdom. We are in recovery of coming out of COVID-19, and we know that the work that these orphanages do is true, and it's work that needs to be done. And so we thought that as GoTV, we would like to give back to Busoga region in the best way we possibly can by giving them TV subscriptions, which TV subscriptions have entertainment, they have education, they have cartoons, and really what we are looking is to make the lives of the children in these orphanages simpler in whichever way possible we can.
She further says while waiting for the Ugandan economy to fully reopen in January 2021, education is much needed, and so GoTV provides this on its platform.
So in the programs that we have on GoTV, we have educational programs. Those programs sit on Pearl Magic, which is available all the way down to GoTV Lite. We also have entertainment programs and programs that these children can sit down and watch. But if I go back a little bit to education, we are in a situation where we are waiting for the Ugandan economy to hopefully open in January 2022. But in the meantime, what we are doing is we are providing education on our platforms. On Pearl Magic, the platform is called Learning Time, which Learning Time we have teachers that come on every day and they go through different curriculums of different subjects. So we would really like to, in a way, educate these children for them to be able to sit in the orphanages that they are and be able to access the information.
The State Minister for Kampala, Honorable Kyofatugambi Kabuye, while talking to the press, expressed his feeling when he said that vulnerable people like those of the orphans and schools don't know what's taking place in the country. So this will help them know and learn some good things while using these GoTV decoders. He further said that while giving these communities such avenues of watching TV, it helps the government and the people it targets to help, and because these people are in economic hardship. However, Mrs. Joan Semanda, also representing GoTV, said this is an opportunity to give back to the communities like the orphanages and schools, and giving them a platform to access information of the details from education to the social and economic activities in Uganda. Okay, and away from that, meanwhile, let's move on to the next story. The Ugandan Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection has engaged journalists from the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association in a social protection training. This forum, led by Honorable Kabahinda Flavia, the women representative of Chengerwa district, said that social protection is everyone's business and encouraged journalists to balance their reporting instead of reporting negative stories about the government. More of the details.
We are talking about the same animal.
Honorable Kabahinda Flavia, the chairperson of the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection, while speaking to journalists at Parliament, said it's not good for journalists to report negative stories about the government. This is because all people have failed in as far as social protection is concerned.
So basically, social protection is everybody's business. And so I would like to implore the journalists to make sure that you don't only report about government failing. All of us have failed. We all have sinned and have fallen short of the glory of God in as far as social protection is concerned. Because in our families, if we cannot look after our older persons and instead blame government for failing to look after our grandfathers and our fathers, it's a shame that one parent can produce 8 children and look after them very well up to their adulthood, and then the 8 children cannot support their one parent. Is a shame. All of us should really now take it upon ourselves that it is our responsibility, right from family, from an individual, up to community and government.
She further said that when preparing for disasters at any point, there is a need to have data for everything, and this has to be reflected in the budget and finance very well. This data would help for better planning, but instead, the National Planning Authority does the things without data, which makes the same problems come again and again.
It requires data and planning. And that is why Patrick was saying in the budget, we would like to see financing of the operationalization of the single registry, so that the data that is populated to the single registry is utilizable for the planning. We have a whole National Planning Authority which plans without data, because Simon will tell you that up to now, even when you talk about the older persons at 80 years old.
This is where Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection Coordinator Katabazi Patrick Chichoncho said that most of the challenges faced by the social protection in Uganda is policy. Some of the laws are not there, and strategies, for example, giving grants to children and giving more to elder people, or when the budget is there, is not enough.
In the budget process, and we have communicated our policy position regarding this. Most of the challenges that we have with social protection in Uganda, besides financing, is policy. Do you realize that you cannot simply go to Parliament and say, I want money for the child grant, if the policy framework has not yet developed to that level? So we have the National Social Protection Policy. Yes, the country lacks a National Social Protection Strategy. It is still in the draft form under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. So it is an area that we need to fast track to ensure that we have this strategy. And then, once we have the strategy, as a forum, we are mooting a law on social assistance. We have money that is coming to the older persons, right? But we don't have a law, for example, that regulates how grants, how resources for grants should be mobilized, how they should be spent. And that should also be very open-ended to make provisions for grants for children, for grants for older, for persons with disabilities, and any other that would be deemed as vulnerable when resources permit. So it's one of the things that we are looking at, and this budgeting particularly, process we shall be asking government to provide adequate financing for SAGE.
He further says it's better if the government finances the single registry. It should provide resources so that it works, because when they want to provide for elderly people, statistics are there.
You've already isolated the beneficiaries, and the payment system is already in place to ensure that within a week of the incident, people have been supported. So there are many things that we are looking out for in the next budget, but those are the key things that are prominent. I'm not saying that the social protection programs here we have are failing. We're simply saying the current programs are inadequate. You're targeting older persons. Yes, granted. You're targeting a section of people with disabilities, granted. But social protection is broad and throughout a life cycle.
And we are back. Let's get rolling. Look at this. Honorable Kabahina Flavia, the chairperson of the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection, while speaking to the journalists at Parliament, said it's not good for the journalists to report negative stories about the government. This is because all people have failed in as far as social protection is concerned, and putting the blame on the journalists, saying, please try to balance the stories. Also bring about stories based on statistics, facts, and not biased stories, because this is a matter of social protection. She further said that when preparing for disasters at any point, there is a need to have data for everything, and this has to be reflected in the budget and financed very well. This data would help for better planning, but instead National Planning Authority does things without data, which makes the same problems come again and again. All right, and this is where the Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection Coordinator Katabazi Patrick Chichonjo said that most of the challenges faced by social protection in Uganda is policy. And some of the laws are not there, and the strategies, for example, giving grants to children and giving more to elderly people, or when the budget is there, isn't enough. He further says that it is better if government finances the single registry. It should provide resources so that it works, because when they want to provide for elderly people, statistics are supposed to be there. Anyway, let's move on. Meanwhile, as Siatini and the Federation of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises called on the SMEs to utilize recovery fund, has called on the SMEs to utilize the recovery funds. The government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with the Bank of Uganda and other stakeholders, launched the 200 billion Ugandan shilling Small Business Recovery Funds, which is a matching grant with the government of Uganda contributing an initial of 100 billion Ugandan shillings to be extended to eligible businesses. Babu Isa had the details.
Policy analyst on women and economic justice, Siatini Uganda, Joanita Nasuna, says that on the 23rd November 2021, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with the Bank of Uganda and other stakeholders, launched 200 billion Ugandan shillings for Small Business Recovery Funds, which is matching grant with government of Uganda contributing an initial 100 billion Ugandan shillings to be extended to eligible businesses. The Small Business Recovery Fund is a resolving fund set up by the government of Uganda in partnership with commercial banks, microfinance deposit-taking institutions and credit institutions across the country.
Uganda, through Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with Bank of Uganda and other stakeholders, launched the Uganda shillings 20 billion Small Business Recovery Fund, which is a matching grant with government of Uganda contributing an initial deposit of 100 billion shillings and other participating financial institutions contributing 100 billion shillings to be extended to eligible businesses. The fund set up by government of Uganda in partnership with commercial banks, microfinance deposit-taking institutions and credit institutions across the country to address financial challenges of small enterprises by providing affordable financial loans to businesses that have experienced hardships due to the measures put in place to control the spread of COVID across the country.
She says that according to official documents released by the Ministry of Finance, the proposed small business recovery will focus on small businesses because the micro and medium enterprises catered for under the previous stimulus funds, including the Imyoga Fund and the funds allocated to Uganda Development Bank. While Gembe John Kakungulu, the Executive Director of Federation of Small Medium-Sized Enterprises, says that during the presidential address, he said that the government shall establish a micro, small, medium enterprises fund to support businesses that have been affected by COVID-19. He continues and says that the President directed the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development together with the Bank of Uganda to establish this fund and inform the country on how to access it.
To appreciate the government of Uganda for finally announcing the modalities of the Small Business Recovery Fund. We take note of the process, which was extremely consultative, and as my colleagues have said, we are very involved in ensuring that these requirements meet the needs of small businesses. We would also like to thank the Bank of Uganda and the Uganda Bankers Association for their flexibility and their willingness to co-finance this facility, to get ready to approach their financial institutions once the modalities are in place. A number of our members have already approached financial institutions, but it appears that a number of them are still ignorant of the existence of the fund. So we wonder whether there's a bit of a communication lapse, but we hope that this will be resolved very soon and that the SMEs will commence accessing this fund with immediate, generally acceptable, except for two things. The first condition that we find interesting is the idea that the loan facilities will be secured by collateral of any form as agreed upon by the participating financial institution and the borrower in accordance with the PFI's lending policy.
Bukenya Herbert says that in order for small-scale businesses to operate, they have to be funded and trained very well, such as bookkeeping, saving. He continuously says that the government should put a fund to recover their businesses.
We emphasize two issues, one being training, because in order for small businesses to really have impact as a result of receiving this fund, they need to be fully trained and equipped with skills that could enhance their operation so that they can realize profits and also be able to pay back that money, because it's a rotational fund, it's a revolving fund, it's a loan, they have to pay back this money. So we call upon government to ensure that training is prioritized so that these small businesses can also be better prepared to take on their operations and to recover from the effects of the pandemic, but also pay back so that even other businesses can borrow. You know, we've been doing a lot of work around this to make sure that government responds to our call to put in place a fund that addresses the specific challenges small businesses face. And the time is now. The fund is, it has been provided, it's here. So we call upon small businesses not to sit back and, you know, complain that government is not doing anything. Let them contact the lower local government, the associations, and find out more, because it has just been recently launched on 23rd of this month.
The Ministry of Finance, in conjunction with the Bank of Uganda and the Uganda Bankers Association, launched a 200 billion shilling recovery for small and medium enterprises affected by COVID-19. Fund will assist Uganda's business community with affordable credit to recover from effects of COVID-19.
On 23rd November 2021, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with the Bank of Uganda and other stakeholders, launched the 200 billion Uganda shilling Small Business Recovery Funds, which is a matching grant, with the government of Uganda contributing an initial 100 billion to be extended to eligible businesses. The SBRF, which is this very fund, is a resolving fund set up by the government of Uganda in partnership with the commercial banks, the microfinance deposit-taking institutions and credit institutions across the country. And accordingly, official document released by the Ministry of Finance, the proposed small business recovery will focus on small businesses because the micro and medium enterprises were catered for under the previous stimulus funds, including the Emyoga Fund and the funds allocated to the Uganda Development Bank. And let's move on to the international scene as Air Tanzania resumes double daily flights to Kenya in renewed business relations. Tanzania's national carrier, Air Tanzania, has landed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi after a 20-plus year hiatus. The airline will now make daily flights to and from Nairobi. More of this story.
The arrival of the ultra-modern Airbus A220-300 MAX, the start of the carrier's double daily Dar es Salaam to Nairobi route, in line with its network expansion plans in Africa. The return of this route has been prompted by improved bilateral relations, increased trade between the two countries, intergovernmental relations, tourism and extension of friendly ties. Commenting on the return of Air Tanzania flights to Kenya, Engineer Ladislaus Matindi, the managing director and CEO of Air Tanzania, stated that we are extremely delighted to resume the Nairobi route, which is one of the most significant destinations in East Africa and a key aviation hub as well. We at Air Tanzania are looking forward to bolstering the relations between Tanzania and Kenya, who have been trusted friends and sincere partners for decades, with this non-stop air service. Air Tanzania will fly the Airbus A220-300, a 132-seater with 12 business class seats and 120 economy class seats, that is renowned for unrivaled comfort levels for aircraft in its category. The airline will depart Dar es Salaam at 5:30 a.m. to arrive in Nairobi at 6:45 a.m. and depart Nairobi at 7:45 a.m. to arrive in Dar es Salaam at 9 a.m. Tickets will cost 37,525 Kenyan shillings, which is $334 for a round trip, and roughly 23,594 Kenyan shillings, which is $210 for one-way travel on the Dar es Salaam-Nairobi route. Evening flights will depart Julius Nyerere International Airport at 8 p.m. and arrive in Nairobi at 9:15 p.m. and the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport 10:15 p.m. to arrive in Tanzania at 11:30 p.m. Other than Nairobi, Air Tanzania has announced 3 new regional routes in November. These include Dar es Salaam to Bujumbura, Ndola, Zambia, and Lubumbashi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, as the country seeks to expand passenger services to new markets in Africa, Asia and Europe as international borders reopen and travel restrictions ease. Mumbai of India, Hahaya of Comoros, Lusaka of Zambia, Harare of Zimbabwe, Entebbe of Uganda and Guangzhou of China are among the other destinations staffed by Air Tanzania. The line will add Johannesburg, South Africa, Lagos of Nigeria, Accra of Ghana and London of the United Kingdom to its
So that's it for the news hour. Air Tanzania is making its route back to Kenya to and from Tanzania to Kenya. Other routes that have been so far opened, there was Uganda, Shanghai, in there's Entebbe, there's Lusaka, Zambia, there's Shanghai, China. Now Nairobi also heads into an official route for Nairobi has also been opened still. But when you look at the other routes that are going to be opened in a few years to come, there is in the next 3 months rather, there is Ndola. Ndola is also a city in Zambia, and then other cities as well. Also Lubumbashi, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And that's it from the news hour. Returning with more analysis. Stick around as we sum up.